Hello everybody. So we are live today to talk about getting in the flow with Cathy Lemire. Cathy is a soulful wellness guest expert, and she created an amazing workshop for the soulful wellness community and the space. In this workshop, Cathy takes us on what is part of the menstrual cycle of women, but how it kind of fluctuates in terms of not only our moods or our health, but our financial assets, if we can say it like that, in that way. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction. I've got Cathy's bio here. So if you see me going up and down, I'm just reading from my
Mhm,
notes.
mhm.
So Cathy Lemire is a financial coach for women who are experiencing the hormonal ups and downs throughout the month, leaving them feeling exhausted and making it difficult for them to reach their goals. And here we're specifically talking about financial goals. So that's Katie right here. As you know, I am Patience Modevi, and I am the founder of the Soulful Wellness community. So, Katie, if I could just, obviously, I've done a little bit of an introduction here, but if I could just let you tell us a little bit more about you, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Cathy Lemire, the menstrual money coach, which at first glance doesn't really sound like two things that go together, and that's generally the reaction I get. I started out as a financial coach, working with all types of different people in different phases and stages of their lives, and came to financial coaching through my husband and I's own struggle with our money. And in working through that, realizing how life changing that was for us, for our marriage, what now the future looked like for our children. And um so I'm just going along, coaching, loving it, feeling like I'm making an impact in people's lives. However, behind the scenes, was starting to feel some imposter syndrome, because even though my husband and I had done this work, um, we had gone through the process of cleaning up and gaining control of our finances. We were communicating much better, um, and we were on the same page. There were still times when it was very difficult for me to sit down and have a productive meeting with him or just conversation with him around our finances.
Mm.
And it would be over very small, insignificant things, as when we're getting a little irritable. It's never about the mug that was left by the sink,
Yeah.
right? But that's what we're blowing up over. And it was actually my husband who had noticed this pattern and was saying, like, are you in the clouds? That's like the PMS phase of my cycle. I was using an app to track it, and that's there were clouds on those days. Are you in the clouds? And at first I was like, oh, no, no, no. Don't, we're not going to go there and start blaming my PMS on what's going on here. And then a few months of that, I was like, oh, no, I think he's right. And so when I started tuning into that for myself, and how difficult that was for me during those few days, and knowing, like, just sitting down looking at our finances together, I felt very ADD. I was all over the place. I couldn't focus on the numbers. I started really hearing and noticing the same patterns in my clients, where they would show up one week for a session and they felt amazing. I'm killing it. I'm meeting my goals. Look, everything's all taken care of. They were feeling excited and hopeful and in control. And then we would meet 2 weeks later, and it was, I blew it.
Yeah.
Like their whole mindset had completely shifted, or he spent this, she spent that, and it was just, it was like, well, where was that person from 2 weeks ago? So I just simply started asking, where are you in your cycle? And near every time they were like, well, I'm just about to start, I'm just about to start. And so the more I started reading about this and the more I started like asking my clients and going there, it just became this, for me, this like very natural fit. And like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, why have we been ignoring this huge piece of us that it really does, especially if you are perimenopausal, and you are having those, ups and downs. Um,
Yeah.
that just really seems like a huge piece that we have been ignoring as women for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think that it is, so it stems on a lot more of the different areas in our lives, you know.
Mhm.
So here we're really focusing on the financial bit, in your workshop, which is called Getting in the Flow,
Mhm.
on the community. However, and as a general point of view, this really stems on quite a few of the different. It could be like Cathy and I were talking just before coming on the live. It could be with your friends, your social life. It
Mhm.
could also affect like your family life, um, your relationship with your partners, and so on.
Mhm.
So, in the Getting in the Flow workshop, Cathy, can you take us a little bit more about, like, first of all, when you and I spoke about having this workshop for the community, what was it that you really wanted to communicate and to really empower women with getting in the flow?
Yeah. So I think there's two things, and I think it's why I feel so passionate about these two things coming together,
Mm,
because what I really want women to feel empowered with is their own health and that connection
yeah.
to self. And that's our menstrual health. It's our fifth vital sign. I know every time I go to the doctor, it's the first question they ask: what was the first date of your last period? And many of us are like, I don't really
Mm,
know. But it's really a big indication of our overall health, and it's something that we as a society haven't really done a good job of empowering women, um, to talk about it. We're not, growing up, it was something I necessarily wasn't speaking to my friends about it. And it's something that we just feel like we just have to deal with. It's a part of being a woman. We just have to manage it. And we don't really start thinking about it until we start experiencing problems with it. So my goal is really for women to embrace their cycle and understand that within each phase of their cycle, there is a secret little like superpower within that when we are optimized to be doing certain things. And so that's really what getting in the flow is. It's going with that instead of, that expectation of every day we can show up and be expected to perform, have the same energy levels as maybe our partners or others, that then we just feel burnt out and we're not really sure why. So getting in the flow is this idea of embracing our cycle, knowing where we're at, so that when you're in those phases where your body is telling you it's time to just rest, doing that without those thoughts of, oh gosh, like, why can't I get this done yesterday or get this done today? I was able to do it so easily last week. Or why am I being feeling so lazy? And all of that negative self-talk that can, it really starts when we don't understand where we're at, and it's just our body telling us. And
Yeah,
then the second thing is really empowering women with their
yeah,
money. You know,
yeah.
because when women have control of their money and they feel confident with their money and they're in control of their health and they feel
Mhm.
confident with their health, women really have the capacity then to create this incredible ripple effect and change lives within not only their own life but their families' lives and their community. So it's really bringing like your health and your wealth together to feel confident and control, because that's when women have the most control in their lives
Yeah, yeah. I
for their
agree.
security and future.
I completely agree. Thank you so much for like painting the whole picture in that way. It's really important, and that's actually the reason why I was really adamant to having you as a guest expert for the community, because I feel like there is a lot of tools and a lot of expertise that we have in terms of like daily life and looking after our families, looking after everybody. And in terms of looking after ourselves, when we come back to the self, we tend to push it to the side. And then it's difficult to kind of like take notice of those little details, as in this week I'm feeling good, this other week I'm not feeling good. And because we are not on kind of like this, if I can say, this linear
Mhm,
kind of life, we tend to go into another cycle of like you said, the negative thoughts, the limiting beliefs that start to creeping in, and then we go into that cycle. And you could even, not that everyone does not go through depressive state, but this can really lead on to other things later.
mhm,
So if you are feeling this on a day, on a monthly basis, you might kind of create an evidence to say that, well, this is what happens, so it means that I'm not worth enough, I can't do this, I'm not going to value myself because this or that, and bring on another I'm going to say stint on mental health, basically.
mhm, mhm,
So it's not only the physical health, but the mental health. And this is something that, for generation and generation, that has been true before, has not really been uh, not, I wouldn't say understood, because I think people understood that there was like a difference into the ups and downs of their cycle, but understand how it affected all those different realms is
mhm,
different
mhm,
stage.
mhm,
And as we are coming into this new era where women are really not only really empowering, but we are really educating the society. And when I say the society, we're talking about the patriarchy here, and really is sharing that it's not only affecting our health, it's affecting everything else, and so on. And this is really linked, if I can say it like that, it's really linked to also the way women are not able to perform, even not perform, women are performing, but they're not able to achieve certain goals, as in getting into certain roles, because of this non-understanding from the society as a general.
mhm.
And I think it's really important. So thank you again for being a guest expert in the soulful wellness community, because I think you're just bringing in another layer of empowerment and another layer of skills and expertise for women in the community. So I wanted to quickly do a little bit of like a talk on the Soulful Wellness Space. So, the Soulful Wellness Space is basically a community where you get the support from all our lovely guest experts like Cathy here, but you also get a subscription box that comes in to your post box every month with certain items that are geared toward your self care and your soul care. So what we're doing here is like I'm really bringing in what will support you on different realms in your life. So we're not only thinking of self care as in I'm going to put myself a mask and I'm going to sit down on the sofa. We're really talking about going a bit deeper and doing some inner work and self development, which is really important for you to become the woman that you want to become, and also to really I would say shift, you know, anything that is not really empowering in your life and going further. And then what I use NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. I use EFT tapping, and I also use human design. And the reason why I use human design is again to bring another layer of awareness on how you coming into the world and to really take your space. So the women who are in the community or are coming into the community are mostly high achievers women, and they're mostly nurturers. So they look after everyone else, like we were talking about, and they really like if I can say doers. They do. They're there for everybody but themselves. And this community is here for that. Is here to bring you to your own self and to really push through this personal development so yeah you can even achieve your best self in your personal life.
Mhm.
So now coming back to Cathy. Coming
I
back
love
to
that. That's a beautiful community you have.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really, really proud of, and I'm not boasting here, but I'm really, really proud of this because um, it's really close to my heart into how I want people to feel. And I want to create this authenticity of you are who you are and you accept it as you are. Now, here are expertise, here are some tools and some skills that you can add to yourself so that you can go on further. And I think that's what we're doing here. So, Cathy, tell me. So, in your community, so you have women who are in partnership, so they have like partners, or you have women who are single. So, how does that play up for each and every one person, like in terms of like the flow, like what I was saying, like life is not just one straight line; it goes
Mhm,
down. And
mhm,
how do you feel that this is actually coming through? How are people seeing that they are not in flow?
mhm. It's it's very similar for whether or not we're in a partnership or
Mm,
single, in that, if you're in a partnership, I think um, one of the best things you could probably do for yourself is really talk to your partner about how you are feeling, and helping them to understand that you are feeling up and down throughout the month, and that at certain times there are just um things you're just not going to want to do, and that they need to take the lead on more. If you're single, I would say that looks more like being really protective of your calendar.
mm,
And because as those women that you were talking about that are high achievers and doers, we're saying yes to things we don't necessarily want to say yes to. And if we could be a little bit more protective of our calendar and looking at our calendar not as the 1st through the 30th, but as a cycle of our own calendar, and saying, I'm going to be in this phase on this week, that means I'm going to say no to things that aren't really exciting me that week,
Mm,
because it's, we know we're going to show up to it, or the day is going to come and we're just going to like, ugh, it's going to feel like one more thing we have to do.
mm,
And now we can't all the time, rework our entire schedule. But what if we could just start looking at like moving 10% around? What could that look like? Right. And understanding that, maybe during that PMS phase, if you are someone who experiences that increased anxiety, maybe depression, sense of overwhelm, um, that just taking that, having that awareness of that, and giving and that's when we're going to feel more introverted. We're not going to feel naturally extroverted and wanting to be going out and connecting with other people, and giving yourself that space to allow yourself to just be introverted at home, whatever it is, letting go of social obligations. That, what I've heard from clients when they really start to implement this, is that those lows that they feel during that time aren't as low anymore, because one, they're preserving energy, so that when they go into the next phase of their cycle, it's not, they're not mentally beating themselves up. I've been noted, and this holds true for myself too, how much mental energy we use in really just peppering ourselves with thoughts.
yeah,
And so when we can kind of preserve that energy for the next phase of our cycle, we have more energy to go into that. We're not at such a deep low. And then when we know this is just where we are and we're going to feel differently in a few days, it's like, this weight just lifts off your shoulders. And so that is how I think, for both like women who are married or women who are single, that's
mm,
what all of us can do. If you are in a partnership, having that conversation with your spouse, so that they know how they can better support you, and know that, like, when it comes to our money, like, that is maybe not the best time to sit down and try and have a conversation about
mm,
your money. Right? Now, when
yeah,
we can start to level out, because the goal is not to be like this every month. We want to get where it's like little hills, right? We're still going to be experiencing those hormonal changes, but
mm,
it doesn't have to feel like a roller coaster. And so when we're just having little, where we can feel like our energy picks up, then our energy dips, or we're a little more irritable, or we're feeling really extroverted, or we had a massive creative boost. Knowing at what points to have those conversations, to plan for your next month. Um, that's when you want to kind of schedule those things with your partner.
yeah. And I love that. I love the fact that you were talking about how um, we shouldn't follow the calendar,
Hmm.
like the normal calendar, and create our own calendar. I
Hmm.
think with everything is been so generalized in terms of you should do this, or we should behave that way, or we should um, upload this kind of behavior. However, actually coming back to yourself and being like, you know what, I'm gonna make sure that I'm coming through from a place of self-empowered, than a place of I'm just going through the motion
Hmm.
kind of thing. The more you do that, the more you allow yourself to really be in that space, the more you are able to flourish and really be in control of anything that is happening
Hmm.
in your life.
Yeah,
Thank
one
you.
example I like to use
Yeah.
that's not money related is running. And I talked about this a little bit in the workshop, in that, my husband and I both run. And although we don't do our long runs as much together, because it's
Life.
just better that way. But before, I came to this realization of, regardless of where I might be hormonally within my cycle that week, like, let's say we're going out and doing a long 5 or 6 mile run on a Saturday. And, he shows up and he has the same energy, taking out, you know, factors of maybe how he slept or ate or something like that the night before. But he can pretty much expect to know how he's going to perform that day. And it's going to vary quite a bit for me. And so if I am on like day 2 or 3 or even 4 of my cycle, it is absolutely unrealistic for me to expect that I am going to show up and be able to put down the same kind of effort that he is. And I'm not talking about different paces, but effort, right? And before I made this connection for myself, I would be running and just be like, oh, what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I keep up? I'm so tired. I just don't have the energy for this. It always feels so hard. I'm a horrible runner, and it's just this, like, these negative emotions, negative thoughts that are, I'm judging myself. And now that I've made that connection for myself, either I can opt to do something else because I know this is just not the right activity for me today. But I might get a lot more out of just going for a walk, doing some yoga, something else. And that is how we can consistently and sustainably meet our goals, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not just saying, well, this sucks. It sucks all the time. I might as well just quit because I'm horrible and I'm never going to get better. But realizing, like, no, it's unrealistic to try and go out and run 5-6 miles on day 2 or 3 of my cycle. And I mean, could I do it? Yeah. Will I enjoy it? Probably not. But I also can't be comparing myself to somebody else who's not there either, right? And so that's where so many of our mental gymnastics come in, is we're constantly comparing, to even ourselves a week ago or something like that. So that's just a non-financial example that comes up a lot as well. And when we don't understand where we are and the impact that it's having, and sometimes things just feel so hard and we don't know why, when something that maybe you did the week prior felt effortless. So it's really kind of taking into consideration and knowing where you are and how that affects you. And maybe it doesn't impact every woman that same way, like it's unique for all of us.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you can start to tap into what your patterns are and how you experience each phase, and kind of lean into that and be doing the right things at the right time, you'll begin to start to see those shifts for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Cathy, for giving us all this insight. I think it's really great. And people can join the Soulful Wellness space at any time. So you would have Cathy's amazing workshop on the platform, but you also have other workshop there. So even though the workshop has been done for the community and is in there, if you know that you need more support in terms of your financial goals, I think it's a great way to make sure that you reach Cathy. So, Cathy, how can people reach you if they need more support?
Oh, they can go to my website, which is themenstrualmoneycoach.com, or just send me an email at hello@themenstrualmoneycoach.com.
Amazing. So, on this note, I'm gonna encourage you to join the Soulful Wellness space, where like I said, you will be really embraced by all the guests, experts, and myself, and all the support that we can give you. To subscribe, say simple. So you click on the link. The link is in the comments anyway. So you can always go on there. And then the next dispatch for the box, the actual box, is on the first of each month. However, if you join during the month, you will also receive the month's box. On this, we will come to the an end with our workshop. Our live Q&A with Cathy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for contributing to the community. And it's a real pleasure to have you with us, Cathy.
Thank you, Patience. Thanks for having me.
All right, then. So you take care, everyone, and I'll be back with another live Q&A soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.